This is John with Freelock, and I'm here with Hans Skillrud. Hans, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely, John. My name is Hans. Thanks for having me today. I'm the co-founder of Termaggedon, which is an auto-updating website policies generator. And yeah, prior to that, I ran a 12-person web design agency for 7 years, hence the hair loss. And yeah, and now I help people with website policies. So I know that everyone loves talking to me, and I'm sure cannot be more excited to listen to this podcast. But hopefully we get some good questions answered and help people, move in the right direction towards compliance.
The topic of the month is privacy. And so first off, why should a site owner care about privacy?
Yeah. So I would say there's two reasons why a website owner should care about privacy. Number one, and the one that gets most people interested, is the fact that, privacy laws protect people's data, like people's names, emails, phone numbers, IP addresses. Those are all regulated under a multitude of privacy laws. And when your website collects that data, you may be required by law to make very specific disclosures in your policies and respect your website's privacy rights. So number one reason is to comply with laws and avoid fines or privacy-related lawsuits. And for the record, privacy-related fines start at $2,500 per website visitor whose rights you've infringed upon. The second reason, though, it's a little bit more of like a, pie in the sky, but lately I've kind of really come around to it, which is that I have yet to meet many people that don't care about privacy rights. When I say that people deserve a right to their privacy, most people, I see head nods like, okay, yeah, I can understand that. And if we as website owners aren't respecting those rights, but we still want privacy rights, it's a little hypocritical in my mind. And I think that, regulations are regulations. They've come to the web world. We just have to, I would recommend we embrace privacy regulations rather than trying to avoid them and downplay them.
And so you specialize in creating good privacy policies. So first off, why does a website owner need a good privacy policy?
Yeah, so a privacy policy explains to your website visitors what personal information you're collecting, what you're doing with that information, potentially who you're sharing that data with, and also your privacy practices. A privacy policy exists to comply with laws. Failure to provide a compliant privacy policy can result in non-compliance fines, which I just mentioned can be quite significant. If you find to be non-compliant with CPRA, you have 100 visitors from California whose rights you've infringed upon, that's 100 times $2,500. That is a lot of money for not taking this stuff seriously. So only collect what you absolutely need. Under some privacy laws, you actually may have to make sure you delete that data you no longer need after a certain amount of time. And I don't know if there's a golden rule. I would just say, treat your customer's data and your visitors' data as if it was your data, and try your best to respect it and actually take some conscious time to think about, what am I collecting? Is it absolutely necessary? Maybe I don't need to collect it, and just have a plan in place to address how do we respect people's privacy while running our business.
Okay. What about e-commerce? If someone is buying something through your site, how long it seems like you need to maintain customer records for, you're required to maintain them for 7 years for the IRS, and how do you balance that?
I wondered the exact same question. And so it turns out there are laws that require you to delete data you no longer need after a certain amount of time periods, but there are other things of data that you absolutely need for taxes and stuff like that. And e-commerce is a great example of that, where you can't, if someone asks you to delete their data, you can't delete their transaction history because you have another obligation to submit taxes. So things like transactions where you absolutely need that for another legal obligation, that type of stuff should not be deleted if someone were to request their data to be deleted, for example. Yeah, Termaggedon, our tool is, in my opinion, fundamentally built correctly because our tool first walks you through a questionnaire to identify the laws that apply, and then our questionnaire adapts and asks you the questions necessary to make the respective disclosures you're required to make under those respective privacy laws. And I apologize, it's not meant to be a sales pitch. Really, the message here is when you're seeking to get a privacy policy for your website, the very first thing you need to do is find out whose information you're collecting. Do those privacy laws require me to comply with them? And if so, what within those privacy laws is required for me to disclose? So each privacy law lays out exactly what your privacy policy needs to state. And a lot of it's conditional. Like if you sell data, you have to say this. If you share data, you have to say this. But every privacy law lays out exactly what you need to disclose. So as a website owner, your very first step is to find out the laws that apply to you. And by the way, just I'm going to add a quick little tidbit. A lot of people, maybe someone listening is like, well, I don't sell data or I don't share data. None of that stuff. Well, selling data, I could see that. I don't think a lot of people sell data. Obviously, we know the data brokers do and all that stuff, but sharing data is quite common. Quite common. And in fact, I'd almost argue it's impossible not to share data in this world we live in. And I'll give you an example. If you have a contact form on your website where people inquire, contact forms are essential to any website that wants to generate leads and interest in your business. Well, when someone submits that form, do you receive an email in your inbox with that person's contact details? If yes, that is an excellent example where you've not only collected someone's like name, email, phone number, whatever it may be, but you also shared that data with your email service provider, whether it's G Suite, Outlook, Microsoft 365, or any other third-party email system you're utilizing. You just shared that data. As for websites, there are certain laws that also require consent first prior to placing things like non-essential cookies on a user's browsers. And those are the cookie pop-ups we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me when I say there are non-compliant cookie pop-ups, and then there are actual working cookie pop-ups. If you're going to add a pop-up, you might want to make sure you add a proper one that's actually compliant, actually getting consent. A message that says, we use cookies. By visiting this website, you accept, and there's just a giant OK button. Oh man, there are so many companies that have been dinged in the millions on that one in particular, or deceptive cookie pop-ups. So just make sure you're not trying to mislead people into thinking like, oh, I'm going to get them to accept, and I'm going to have a big giant green button for accept and then tiny little gray buttons to deny. That, like, there are so many businesses that have gotten dinged for deceptive practices. So just know that depending on what laws apply to you, you also may need a cookie policy and consent tool. That's why a privacy attorney or a tool like Termaggedon can help you uncover that to figure out what you need specifically. Now, from a broader context, these privacy laws aren't just web related. This is people's data. That it's their name, their email, their phone number, and after years of working here, I finally kind of got it, which is like, I can own property and own land or something like that. And that's like my owner. I own that, well, you own your name, you own your email, you own your phone number. These are things you own. And what's exciting about privacy is that what we're basically doing is we're setting up laws where people have the ability to tell a company, get rid of my data because it's my data. And I think that's something very important. And a general rule of thumb, just in general, would be really minimize the data you're collecting. If it best, my number one recommendation was only collect the data you 100% need to run your business. So HIPAA, which protects protected health information, FINRA, which protects financial information, COPA, which protects children's information, FERPA, I think it's FERPA, which protects student data, and then the government has their own set of privacy laws as well. Everything I just listed are industry-specific privacy laws, which are a bit more advanced than what the typical website owner needs. So if you're collecting student data, like data about loan applications and I think it's called the bursar. Sorry, it's been a minute since I was in college, but I think it's the bursar. Like data about that, you may have additional disclosures beyond all the ones we've been talking about today, which just are general protections. These are extra protections that protect children with COPA, patients with HIPAA, students with FERPA, loan applicants with FINRA, and then I'm failing at the government one, but government sites also sometimes have some additional disclosures they need to make. So, in those types of situations, we always recommend, you can still use Termaggedon by all means to support all the other privacy laws, but those additional disclosures, you definitely want an attorney that's specialized in those areas to add in any disclosures they see fit. Yeah, so a lot of people think it's just Meta. That's my sister's name, Meta, aka Facebook, and Google that have been only fined for noncompliance because the headlines in the news talk about major organizations getting fined billions of dollars. But people can actually go to the website enforcementtracker.com. Now, that particular website only tracks GDPR enforcements, but I really like it because it's a really easy one to navigate through. Check out enforcementtracker.com. You're going to see one person website owners getting fined 5 figures for changing the email address of one of their subscribers without their consent. I think it just doesn't make the news that, smaller businesses get dinged with only 5 figures, as if that's like not a big deal. That would be traumatizing to me as a business owner, but yeah, enforcement is on the rise. And more laws are passing. And on top of that, right now, I think there's over 30 privacy bills in the US alone. Many of them, if passed, are going to enable citizens of that state to start suing website owners for collecting as little as an email address or an IP address without proper disclosures under their specific state privacy laws. So there's already enforcements happening. It's gaining in popularity. Like, there's more enforcements occurring. And there's some concerning bills. I would call them concerning. I mean, I'm happy people are getting a right to their privacy. I just have a concern that there will be people that try to abuse it and start spamming lawsuits to people.
This is this is really critical. Everybody needs to know about this and understand it. And your service looks like a great one. So
Thank you.
we signed up as an agency partner, and look forward to helping our clients get compliance. Well, super. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, and for all the work you're doing. I think it's a huge benefit for site owners in today's complex world of privacy legislations. So thanks again.
Absolutely, John. It was an honor to be here. Thank you so much for interviewing me.
All right.